Welcome back to Good Day. It is time for Mother Knows Best, and as you can see, we are a little couch light today. We have a couple people that couldn't make it today, so we are missing them, but we're glad that you ladies are here this morning, and we'll welcome Janet and Tracy back next week when they're back in business. But right now, we're here with Pat and Bridget. We're talking about hubbies, babies, sugar daddies, whatever. Whatever. What do you call your husbands? What is their pet names?
I call Travis Baby Daddy and Dion. I call him guys. I do. I call him Baby Daddy.
Go there.
I do. I do it at church a lot. I'm like, where's my baby daddy? You know, so I mean, it's me. Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
You don't want to share, Pat?
I don't think. Well, I think I'll pass on that question. But then,
Whoa. Okay, Pat. We won't badger you on that one. But this morning we do want to talk about ways to show love and respect to your husbands. So, what are your tips today on that?
well, I do want to start with a disclaimer because I'll be glad to share what I do and everything, but I'm not a professional on this one. I've made plenty of mistakes. But we are coming on 28 years of marriage this year, in November. So at least we've weathered through it. But but I have to say that to show honor and respect, the first thing I'd have to say is it starts with me and my attitude and my head. And it's easy to say, well, when he does da-da-da-da-da, then I'll. And that just doesn't cut it, it really, I know it doesn't. And it's hard to do that sometimes because, you do feel like, I'm human and I want to be treated well, but he's human too. And so it starts with your own head. I always tell my kids about anything that, you can't change the other person. The only thing you can change in a situation is yourself. And I have to remember when I'm telling them that I've got 3 fingers pointing back at me.
Very good.
I mean, even for me with Travis, it's 17 years. We just celebrated 17 years in July. And so for us, it's paying attention to the little things that he says that he likes. And, we're hitting a milestone because this Sunday, he'll be ordained into pastorship. Wow. So I'm definitely going to have to learn this. I can't call him baby daddy at church like that, So that's going to have to stop it. That's a 17-year habit. Well, Brianna, a 16-year habit. So I'm going to have to work on that. But I have a blue towel story because years ago when he first started working at Procter & Gamble, he asked me to please buy some darker towels because when he gets home, he didn't want to mess up my lighter towels. Years later, he came into the room and I was folding up the laundry and he kissed me and he said, baby, thank you. And I was like, for what? He said, for the blue towels. He said, because you paid attention to that, because in our bathroom we have the darker towels because he didn't want to mess them up with all the paper stuff that he has on him. So I guess it's the little things, and I'm not perfect either. We just had a talk the other day, and it's always these tweaking and twerks that we have to do. Not twerks, that's the wrong. Twerking is a whole nother thing.
That's a dance.
Okay, never mind.
Never mind.
I didn't say that.
Tweaking is good. You can use that.
But tweaking, because we're getting older and we're changing, and so every time I turn around, well, baby, I appreciate if you do this. I'm like, oh, okay. So with marriage, it's never going to stay the same. You're going to always have to do something different, but it's all comes a part of the territory. You have to do that.
Yeah, I think that blue towel story is kind of interesting too, because I think there's so many people going into marriage these days thinking, what's in it for me? And it's even that phrase, he completes me or she completes me. It's not about you. It's how can you help the other person? And I don't mean change the other person. How can you help them to be the best they can be? And if you look at it always as having your needs met and everything, that's not gonna.
Good. We're gonna go to a break on that very wonderful note, and we'll be back in just a few moments talking more about love and respect for our spouses. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are talking about showing love and respect to our husbands this morning. And Pat, you have a journal that you wanted to share with us.
Yeah, my mother-in-law actually started this in our family, and it's just a gratitude journal. Each of us have our own copy, and we have our name on it. And what I've tried to do is, we just are, she asked us to find something every day to write about, just a little thing with something you're thankful for. But I personally made it my mission to try to write something every day about my husband, something different.
Do you share that with him?
Sometimes. Yeah. He does appreciate it when I do. But
I think that, it shows the extra, because you actually have to sit down and write it down. And I did a poem. I do a lot of writing. I've blogged about Travis, and I did a CD of poetry the other year, and I did a poem on there, a tribute to him, called "The Small of My Back," because he has this habit of, anytime we go into a room or we go someplace, he always puts his hand and guide me in there, and he puts his hand in the small of my, in the small of my back, and that is just his way of letting me know that he's there. And so it was, yeah, I got your back, baby. So I have a very strong husband, and it's just, I'm obsessed with him. I will be, so I'm really blessed to have him in my life.
So sweet. I love you guys being able to share positivity about marriage, because there is so much negativity out there nowadays. It's permeating everywhere. So it's good to have a great example. How can you be a great example for your kids with so much of this negative influence and everyone talking bad about marriage? What do you guys do?
Well, there's pros and cons to this, of course, but I don't hide from the kids. When they see when we have disagreements, arguments, I don't want them to, they don't need to know all the little details. But I think it's important for them to see us have conflict and resolve it. And even when we don't resolve it well, because then they say, well, that might not be the way to do it. But I know when my husband was growing up, his parents had divorced when he was very little, and they had a very friendly divorce, though. They got along well. They never fought in front of him. So when we got married, of course you're going to have conflict when you live with someone. He didn't know how to handle it. My family, on the other hand, we were very demonstrative, and expressive, and we had big blowout fights, and that freaked him out, So we've had to learn how to balance conflict and how to settle it in a healthy way, and let the kids see that, so that they have.
And even for us, marriage is a lot of work. That's why they say, for better or for worse, they're preparing you for the tough times that are going to come up. And me and Travis, we have been through a lot in the 17 years that we were married. And, we've learned how to argue properly. I had a former pastor that used to call it intense fellowship. And, I think the turning stone for us was when my son, he wasn't even born now, he's 10, but it was years ago when we were living in America, we were having this big heated argument, and our daughter came into the room, and she was yay high, and she just screamed while she was crying, "Please stop fussing." And so a light bulb went off for both of us, because you don't want your kids, growing up seeing that. And right now, our children's biggest complaint is that we kiss too much. Or we're always, because it's a learning process, and you have to lead by example. I'm a type personality a lot of times. I was raised to be strong, and sometimes it's hard to step back and just let him be the man of the house. But as a wife, you have to learn that, that respect includes submission. And submitting to your husband does not take away from you as a woman. You can still be strong. It takes a stronger person to sit back a lot of times than, have to be the lead all the time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good points. We're going to be back in just a moment with more Mother Knows Best. Stay with us.
Oh, yeah.
We're back with more Good Day and Mother Knows Best, and we left off, and you guys were talking about submission and what that means. It's gotten a bad rap. Many people see that as a negative word. Why is that? How is that kind of like the wrong way to look at it, or what are your views on being submissive?
Well, right now reality TV has, with these so-called housewives that we're seeing, they are making it seem like if you submit to your husband, then you're a weaker vessel in the relationship, and that's definitely not the case. I am happy to have a husband who is strong and who can take the lead and lead our household, not only in the direction of Christ, but lead us in the places that we want to do, be a father figure for our son and our daughters, to teach them and to pour into them. But a lot of times we women try to step into the role of being a man when we were built to be a woman. We were built to be the nurturer. We were built to be there and to really just pour into them on a more feminine side. And we're taking that role. And one thing I want my daughters to always know, I want them to grow up to be strong women. I want them to grow up to have a mind of their own. But I also want them to grow up respecting the Word of God, which tells us to allow our husbands to lead the household. A lot of the households and a lot of marriages are failing because the whole dynamic has shifted. And everybody, I mean, my arm cannot walk for me. I need my feet to walk for me. And when you're trying to do the job of your foot, when you were ordained to be a hand, then you're going to fail from the get-go, you know.
Yeah, regarding the submission thing too, though, I think a lot of men have the image of, well, I guess women too have the image of submission being lording it over people. But really, I mean, healthy headship, you know, in a family is being a servant leader. So, you know, a really strong husband will serve his wife. And honestly, who wouldn't want to submit to that? If you know that your husband's out for, you know, got your back kind of thing, and out to serve you, that's going to enable you and empower you, really.
Yeah.
You know,
Very good.
Yeah.
Talking about earlier, you were kind of saying that you had learned a way to talk with your husband and not argue, but to have a positive argument when there are disagreements that come.
Oh,
because
we still argue. Wait a minute.
Yeah,
we still argue.
So how do you handle that?
You know, well, I mean, the thing about, because I have a feisty attitude, and
we can tell.
He can be he can be feisty at times, but I'm just outspoken. I mean, that's the way Bridget has always been since yay high. And so it's one of those things where if we see that it's, can I see you in the back for a moment, please, Travis? Or can I see you in the back for a moment, please, Bridget? And so we have to go back there. And if it's something that took place in front of the kids, we will go back and say, look, Mom and Dad has just had a talk. And this is this. And some of the stuff, of course, it's none of their business. But we've just learned that, because my son, especially when he, you know, went to yelling at his sisters and stuff like that, we was like, okay, you know, we don't want that to be the case. Yeah, exactly. I don't want my daughters yelling at their husbands across the Thanksgiving dinner table, and I want my son yelling at his wife. So we, you know, we've got to be that example, and that's what we do.
Sometimes there will be an impasse. There'll be a time when you can't get. And I just think, you know, you should never be afraid of seeking counsel.
Yes.
And we were saying at the break, not your mom, not your mother-in-law, even though they could be great people and have good counsel. No, when you have, they can't. Well,
they can't be biased all the time.
Well, that's right. They can't be. You know, that it's healthy to do that. I mean, we've had times over our years of marriage that we've been in counseling, and it's just good to get an outsider, you know, third party kind of thing, and help diffuse the situation sometimes, and bring in some viewpoints or aspects that you might not. You know,
But you made a good point, though, when you were saying that when you're asking for your spouse to change, you've got to be the first person who wants to change.
Yeah.
Because I've talked to Jesus a lot of times. I'm like, Jesus, if you would just have him to do this, and this, life would be so much better. And then Jesus was like, well, what about you, Bridget? I'm like, what about me, Jesus? You know, so it's one of those things where you've got to be willing to change. And then you go to church and the preacher preaches on it, and you think that he's been in your house the whole week.
Well, and in your case, it might be.
I know. Oh, my gosh. That's a catch-22, but I'm going to pray.
We're going to be back in just a moment with more Good Day. Stay with us.
Yeah.
We are back with more Mother Knows Best, and we're talking now about date night ideas with your husbands. Why do you think it's important to have quality time with your husband? Do you think it's important?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you're living with somebody 24/7, you are not having quality time on a, I mean, it's not going to just happen.
Yeah.
Because anybody who's, you know, because you've got laundry and kids and bills to pay and the dishes and cleaning and all that stuff. And it's just, you know, I mean, I really hate to admit this, but it just goes by the wayside. You know, and sometimes even when you schedule it, you know, I have on my little Gmail calendar, you know, date night, and sometimes it's like, oh gosh, you know, I didn't get a sitter. You just get so busy. So you really have to work it. I mean, you have to work at that.
Yeah, and the one thing too about date night, it's important because you wonder how some of these couples that have been married for 30 and 40 years all of a sudden get a divorce when their kids are out of the house. It's because they lose themselves sometimes in the mix. and they find that they've changed and they've been so consumed with the kids they forgot about each other. And I mean,
and lost track with the changes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so Travis and I, we really have to be proactive. The kids are getting ready to start school on Friday. And, you know, there are things that we can do when he's off, because he has his off days. We can go to the movies, you know, during the day. When it's quieter, we can go out to eat. It's just really important because you do change. I never forget, it was one of those times I usually go, when we go out, I always get water and lemon. And he would always order me a water and lemon. But then along the way, I decided I want to have Diet Coke. And he was like, when did you change that? But then when you're out with the kids and everything all the time and you're just ordering, you don't pay attention to those little things. So it's the little things that can explode to be something big. That's why you have to have that quality time with each other. Yeah.
And it doesn't always have to be going out. I mean, you know, in this economy, of course, sometimes it's tough to get on, especially if you have a lot of kids and things like that. But just making the time to get out of go sit in the car in the driveway. Just, you know, for me, it's getting out of the kitchen because there's so many distractions in my kitchen.
Yeah.
You know,
when we were living in Americas, we had the house in Americas, and at nighttime we used to just go outside and we used to walk around the house holding hands, and we would pray and talk, proclaiming some of the things that we really wanted for our family and for our life and what we wanted to do next. And it was just walking around the house. I know our neighbors thought that we were crazy, but it was, you know, it'd be at, you know, at night, and it was cooler, and it was just some of the best talks that we had because we didn't have any distractions, no cars or anything going by. The kids were in the bed asleep. And pillow talk. I love pillow talk. And so we do a lot of that, you know, when the kids are sleeping. It's wonderful to be able to just have that talk time with him and everything. And he still can make me blush. I've known him for 22 years. We've been together 19, married 17, and he can still make me blush. And that in itself is priceless.
Absolutely.
What ideas do you have for people around town? I know you, with having the calendar, that you look at all the events and things, but do you guys have, whether extravagant or free, what are some of the things that you guys think have been meaningful to you that you've been able to do around our area?
Ooh, for us, we came from America, so we just had new places to eat other than Ryan's. We were just happy, you know, so.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I think really just almost anything that requires a car ride for us. You know, there's something about being in the car that, you know, you're kind of enclosed together, and it just, for us, it just encourages conversation, you know, so.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, taking in a movie, going in and looking at the museums that we have here, because I think that they don't get as much publicity as they should. I even like going and just driving through neighborhoods and just talking, like you said, the car rides.
We used to love going to open houses and just going to, you know, just dreaming, oh, I love this house and this is what I like, and maybe someday we'll do this and kind of stuff like that.
That's really nice. I love that. I love that.
Well, do you guys have any advice? Right now we got about less than a minute left. Do you have any advice for wives this morning?
For wives this morning?
Well, submission does not make you weak. And love him with all your heart. He's not going to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfection. You're not perfect, but it's a growing process. So.
And remember, it's not all about me.
Yeah.
It's not all about me.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for sharing this morning.
Okay,
it is so nice
welcome.
to have positive thoughts, positive influences, and great role models in marriages, and I know many people would appreciate that as well, and thank you for that. We're going to be back with more Good Day in the Morning. You guys can go to mysouthwestga.com/motherknowsbest for more on this lovely panel, plus two other lovely ladies that we did not have with us today. We missed them very much. They'll be back next week, and we'll be back in the morning. See you then.
Bye.